It's hour number 2 here on Second Take, joined by Steve McAvoy and Logan Reardon. I'm Dan Bahl, and folks, Sling wants to remind you that they are the live TV that you love for less. Customize your channel lineup and watch TV and football games online with no setup, hidden fees, or long-term contracts. Go to sling.com for more. And gentlemen, as we begin our NFL segment here on Second Take, we're through 8 weeks of football. We're around the halfway point of the NFL season, so we're starting to see some of the teams that are going to have a shot to win the Super Bowl at the end of the season. So far in the NFC, the 49ers are 7-0. They rolled over the Panthers yesterday. The Saints are now 7-1, and they have Drew Brees back under center. And the Packers are also 7-1. They won by a score last night in Kansas City, who were without Patrick Mahomes. So when we take a look at the landscape in the NFC, gentlemen, out of those 3 teams, who do you think has the best shot to come out of the NFC as the champion?
I'm going to have to give the nod to the undefeated 49ers. It's definitely a team that you don't expect to be there at this point. You see the Saints, perennial contenders, Drew Brees, Sean Payton. You see the Packers, perennial contenders, Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, obviously new head coach, but they've looked great this year. But the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan, and most importantly, that defense has really shined. And you look at, that's the best defense in the NFC. If it weren't for the Patriots in the AFC, that'd clearly be far and away the best defense in the NFL. You've got Nick Bosa, the second overall pick, who is easily looking at Defensive Rookie of the Year, maybe even Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie, and Richard Sherman, all those guys in the secondary. They've got a great unit. Their running game has been fantastic, especially since Tevin Coleman returned last week. The 49ers, I mean, as the season goes on, they're getting more and more comfortable, and I think they're going to be tough to beat this season.
My only fear with the 49ers is the defense is legit. Like, we all know that. My issue is the offensive weapons behind George Kittle and in the running game, Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. There isn't a lot of space there. Dabo Samuel has been quality, but there isn't much else in terms of depth. My personal favorite is the Saints. Reason being is that they have 2 top 10 offensive linemen, according to Pro Football Focus. They're 2 of the best run blockers and pass blockers in the game. It's Tevin Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk. And then as well, even though Alvin Kamara is out, Latavius Murray this past week has proved that he is no one's fill-in. He went absolutely off. He had 2 scores, 102 yards on the ground, and 55 in the air on 9 catches. With Drew Brees back, Teddy Bridgewater is already now known that he can provide. Drew Brees is back now. He's healthy. He was dominant in the air. Once Alvin Kamara gets back, they now have a dual threat. We all know Michael Thomas is one of the best receivers in the game, and the defense has been top 10 in the NFL so far this year. So I think the Niners have a shot. My issue is their offense. I have the Saints.
Now, Logan, what impact will Drew Brees have on the Saints and their chances to win the NFC?
Drew Brees is going to be big. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, as you mentioned, he did a admirable, great job filling in. They didn't lose a game when he was under center, but Drew Brees brings this offense to another level. They just kind of click in ways that they don't with Teddy Bridgewater. Drew Brees has obviously been there for 10 plus years. He knows that system inside and out, and those players, they trust him, and he does a good job of getting the little guys involved. Like Taysom Hill had a touchdown catch yesterday. He unlocks so many different layers to that offense that more and more guys get involved, and that's just makes it even more difficult for a defense to attack.
So switching from the NFC to the AFC, the Patriots are a perfect 8-0 to begin their season, but a couple of other teams in the AFC are staying hot on their heels. The Chiefs are at 5-3. They lost last night, but they kept it to within a score against the Green Bay Packers. The Colts are at 5-2, and the Texans are at 5-3 in a division where no one is under 500, so that one's always tight. The Ravens are at 5-2, and the Bills, despite losing yesterday, are also still at 5-2. So out of all of the teams in the AFC landscape, which one, if any, do you think has a shot to take down the Patriots this year?
So the Pats have played, what is it now, 7 weeks? They have had only one close matchup the entire time, and it was the Buffalo Bills. Granted, Tom Brady and company didn't have the greatest offensive day, but in my opinion, it really is the Bills. The Bills, granted, that 5-1 record is very lackadaisical. They've won over the number 17th, 28th, 30th, 31st, and 32nd ranked teams in the NFL, but at the same time, that defense is absolutely phenomenal. The only question mark, in my opinion, is Josh Allen. He ranks 27th amongst qualifying quarterbacks in overall grade, and 68% of his passes of over 20 yards or more are uncatchable, which is ranked worst in the NFL. The running game is solid. Franco in the backfield. The wide receivers have been they've been a little pitchy on and off between Cole Beasley and Josh Brown, but I don't see any other team really coming close. This pass defense is way too good. But the Bills have kept it close. The Ravens and the Chiefs have a chance, as do the Texans, but I have the Bills.
Yeah, my only problem with the Bills there is they have a team that's built similarly to the Patriots in that it's predicated on their defense. Their defense is what drives them. But the Patriots' defense drives them, and it's much better. Yeah. The Patriots' offense isn't great, but it's much better than the Bills. So the Bills are trying to play the Patriots' game, and they're just doing it at a lower level. That's why, in my opinion, the Chiefs are still the only team that realistically has a chance to go into Foxborough and dethrone Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. You look at, they're going to get into a shootout, and we don't know if this Patriots offense can get into a shootout. And obviously the defense isn't just going to go give up 30 points easily, but I think of anybody in the AFC, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the guy to get those 30 points. You looked at the Pats defense last year in the playoffs. It was unreal the whole way, and it was the same thing in the first half against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. Pat Mahomes figured it out in the second half, and they went off, and if they played a fifth quarter and it wasn't just overtime rules, the Chiefs would have won that game. They would have probably won the Super Bowl. So I think once Pat Mahomes comes back healthy, that's going to be a team that the Patriots have to worry about, whether it's played in Arrowhead or in Foxborough. And it looks like it's going to be in Foxborough, but you really never know. And the regular season matchup between them is going to be a fun one.
The only other team that I see having a shot would be the Texans. DeAndre Hopkins is the top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Sean Watson is really starting to get into his groove. The defense has been quality. The only issue now is that J.J. Watt is now done for the season. But I don't know. There's a lot of question marks around the teams the Pats are playing because this defense is so dominant. I think they've allowed only like 4 or 5 touchdowns to their defense having 4 already. So there's, in my opinion, no one could really beat the Pats at this point. But I think the Texans or the Bills do have a shot.
Now, before we head to break, we zero in on the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that has a future that's kind of up in the air right now. They are 0-8 to begin the season. Their defense has allowed the most yards in the NFL, but a lot of attention and scrutiny is going towards the starting quarterback, Andy Dalton. The offense as a whole for the Cincinnati Bengals, they have the 12th most passing yards, but are only scoring just over 15 points a game, good for 4th lowest in the NFL. So there's a lot of uncertainty around this Bengals offense and around Andy Dalton. So guys, if you were in the front office for the Bengals, what's your plan for Andy Dalton? Is it time to move away from him as your starting quarterback?
All right, this is tough. So I don't believe that it's time to necessarily give up just yet. Andy Dalton has been a provider for this team for many years. They are definitely capable of moving on. This is an incredibly deep draft class, so they'll be able to get a quarterback in the draft. My issue should not fall, though, on Andy Dalton. It should fall on the wide receiving core. So statistically, throughout Tyler Boyd's career, Tyler Boyd is worse on the field when A.J. Green isn't there. A.J. Green will eventually come back. He's been battling the injury bug. But I think the question is really falling on the offense. Their running back game has not figured it out. Joe Mixon has been absolutely shut down. Gio Bernard hasn't been able to pull any weight as well. Tyler Eifert has fallen off in recent years due to injury. AJ Green, we've heard his issue. But I don't know. I think really the whole offense as a whole needs a lot of revamping. They could move on from Dalton. Dalton would definitely fit in somewhere else as well. But if you're looking at this draft class, you can get either Jake Fromm, Tua Tagovailoa in the case that the Miami Dolphins do not take him with the first overall pick, or Justin Herbert. My only issue looking forward into the future is if you're going to take a quarterback this high, you got to be confident in your pick. And I do think Jake Fromm is a quality quarterback. I don't think he is the number 1 overall pick. I think it's a much better defensive and offensive line draft class, but it's really up to what the Bengals believe. I think they should not give up on Andy Dalton just yet.
Yeah, I'm completely in the opposite camp here. I think it's time. This is his 9th year with the team. They've made the playoffs 4 times, lost all 4 games. He's thrown 6 interceptions in those 4 playoff games. He's got the new head coach this year in Zach Taylor, and there was a little bit of optimism. They came in week 1, they only lost by 1 in Seattle, and people were thinking, oh, maybe the Bengals might be a little better than we thought. But since then, they've just been anemic on offense. And you look at, with a new head coach like that, a guy who was from the McVay coaching tree, guy that you want to develop your quarterback and your offense, and it's just not happening. And I think the only way for them to salvage this hire is to either, they drafted a quarterback in the 4th round last year, Ryan Finley from NC State. Don't really know what they've got out of him yet, obviously. They're going to have a high pick this year. And if they don't want to do that, how about a free agent? Like maybe a Teddy Bridgewater, someone like that, and then you draft a lineman high, try and fix the team that way. There's ways that they can get around it. Andy Dalton has 1 year left on his 6-year, $96 million deal. Yes, he signed a $96 million deal, and he's got 1 year left on that, fully non-guaranteed. They can cut bait, no cost of charge. So right now, after this season, you got to suffer through this year. Obviously, you're halfway done. You can get through it, Cincinnati, but after this year, it's got to be the end of the Andy Dalton era in Cincy.
I think the Bengals as a whole, outside of Geno Atkins on the defensive side and possibly Carlos Dunlap, give or take, their defense is also absolutely abysmal. So it's because of the fact that Andy Dalton has been able to provide with such a anemic offense and still able to throw his yards, do his thing. I don't know. I feel like Andy Dalton is still a capable quarterback, but this entire team, there's more holes than a batting cage, and it is not looking pretty in any way, shape, or form.
Well, coming up after the break, Jordan Renan, ESPN NFL Nation writer for the New York Giants, will join us in studio to help us break down the Leonard Williams trade between the Jets and the Giants and what Williams will mean to the Giants' defensive line. You're listening to Second Take, presented by Sling. We'll be right back.